No more Mr. Nice Guy. Don't be mean, but I don't think you can be nice either. This episode is all about an incredible conversation I had with a leader this week about the difference between being nice and being kind. And how do we define that for ourselves? And where do we draw the line?
I'm Natalia Loback, and this is the Change Course podcast. I've spent my career leading complex change and transformation in organizations. And over my career, I've discovered what makes complex transformational change stick. Connected change is all about leading successful change within the context of the organization. And here at the Change Course podcast, we're all about making change sustainable. So listen in, drop us a like, a comment, and let us know how we can help you connect and change. A reminder that opinions expressed are entirely my own.
The title of this episode, yes, is a bit tongue-in-cheek. But if you remember the great 80s ballad, No More Mr. Nice Guy, then I guess you can laugh along with my little joke. The truth is, though, as change leaders who are people-centered and heart-centered, we can be kind even though we can't always be nice. Executing great change means that sometimes you have to say no. You can't say yes to everything. You can't please everyone. And going into a change means we need to accept that resistance and emotional responses are just facts of life in change. They are. There is always going to be some resistance. And in previous episodes, I talk about how to identify and break some of those sources of resistance down. There are going to be emotional responses. And emotional responses aren't resistance. They're not the same thing. Resistance is drag on your change. It's coming from your structures, your systems, your organizational environment, your culture, all of those things. And while people have that initial surprise, negative response to change that happens to them, as I have discussed at length, it's to be expected. There isn't a way really to bring down some of that spin, some of that emotional escalation, some of that response that you're going to see when you're a change leader and you've got to implement the change. But being nice and saying yes and trying to please everyone and trying to make everybody have a good time through the process isn't always going to serve you. And so I invite you to think about that difference between being nice and being kind. When we are truly people-centered, heart-centered leaders, being kind is really the way to go. And it can look like not being nice. Let me just give you an example. So in one of the things I'm working on right now, as there always is, when a big change comes, there are opportunities for people to perhaps continue on and contribute to that new environment. And there are others who are going to have to give up what they're doing and maybe transition to something else. And this is really part and parcel of how change works inside big businesses. It is what it is. And we know this is coming. But being nice means not giving somebody that information, not giving somebody that news because you want to protect their feelings. And the truth is that they're going to have the feelings regardless. And often, if you haven't shared with them, you haven't given them the opportunity to respond in a thoughtful and effective way to you, you've actually not given them the ability to do that. And so being kind can look like having a difficult and direct and candid conversation with somebody who is going to lose what they're working on. Being kind looks like giving somebody the heads up, helping them find a way through it, helping them find maybe even a way out. But being kind doesn't mean being nice. And so when we are bumping up against those really difficult sequelae, consequences, outcomes of change, this is the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. This is the real challenge. And when I hear leaders say, this is really tough on me, this is often the domain that they're talking about. I've heard leaders tell me, I feel like my team doesn't trust me anymore. I've had feedback come to leaders saying you've changed when really the leader hasn't. It's just that they've had to do some difficult things. They've had to make difficult decisions. Those decisions have unfortunately impacted teams, impacted individuals. And if we're talking about organizational exit, that's one of the key things where this shows up. I've had leaders come to me and say, my team tells me that I've changed, and I haven't changed. What has changed is the perception. But again, when we're at the helm of big change, we often have to make these hard decisions. And so I invite you to really think about that difference between being nice and being kind. And what does it mean to be kind to somebody? It can mean having a difficult conversation with them instead of using something else as an excuse to let them go. I've seen that happen more times than I can count. And it takes a really strong leader with a really, really strong sense of self-awareness to be able to have that candid conversation instead of just using something else as the excuse or a red herring or whatever. Being kind can mean helping people realize that they've reached the end of their own journey with the change, helping them find a way to move on elsewhere. That is what kindness can look like. Supporting them, truly supporting them, giving them a fantastic reference, giving them making a call, trying to help them find their way. That is what kindness can look like. And so as I close off this podcast, this is a short one. This is a short one today. This episode was precipitated by a really amazing conversation I had with a leader this week. And the struggle that there is amongst some of the broader, more senior leaders to think about that difference and to really embrace what does being kind mean in the context of really big transformative change. Not everybody is going to be able to do it. Not everybody is going to be able to make it through. And how can we as change leaders kindly and with a sense of caring, how can we help and support those individuals that aren't going to come with us to the end of the road?
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, I invite you to like, share, rate, and subscribe because it helps others find us. Change Course is brought to you by Chart House Advisory Services and ConnectedChange.com. Our music is Levity by Emily Clausen. Show notes have moved. We're now at ConnectedChange.com. So visit us there under the Change Course podcast page, and you'll find a list of all the resources that I've mentioned here today. While you're visiting us, sign up for the Change Navigator newsletter. You'll keep on top of all things change, and every month we are sharing exclusive content and resources only with our subscribers. So don't miss out. Sign up at ConnectedChange.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late to change course.